Good evening, friends. Welcome to today's session. One step towards getting into the main provisions of the Constitution. So, today we are going to discuss the preamble of the Constitution. So, like a quick recall as to what we have covered so far. We have covered the making of the Constitution, the salient features of the Constitution, and now we have reached a stage where we should now enter the Constitution. We had an overview of the Constitution so far when we discussed salient features yesterday. So today will be like having a glimpse of the provisions of the Constitution, which is in the form of the preamble. Now, as I told you earlier also, that if we look at any act or any statute, it will be having either a preamble, a short preamble, or a statement of object will be there, which will be, of course, laying down the object for which the that particular statute has been enacted. But when we talk of the supreme law of the land, the preamble gets somewhat more importance. Now, before I start the main topic, I think yesterday I told you that we will be discussing two topics. One will be the preamble and other will be the union and the states. That is the first part of the Constitution. But later I thought that what we are going to discuss here on preamble is more from polity angle. We are looking at this particular topic in these sessions more like a part of general studies, curriculum. So in that, polity is main portion, which overlaps with, of course, with the syllabus on Constitution for the law optional. So today I have restructured the session. This session will be primarily into two parts. One part is the polity angle, where we will be discussing the basics to, in the simplest possible terms, for increasing our knowledge and clarity, clearing your fundamentals on the terms which are being used in the preamble. That will cover about, I think I'll be covering the entire session in about 1 hour's time. The second part is, there's already a session which has been recorded and is available on YouTube under the same caption, preamble. That's for more than 1 hour, I think 1 hour, 13 minutes or so. That has been recorded keeping in view the requirement of the students who are going to opt for law as an optional subject in the mains examination. So the first part of today's session will be the live session on preamble, which will be, clearing your basics. And the second part, you will have to watch the entire video on preamble, which is already available on YouTube. And I think by now you must have got the link also from our office. Once you complete this whole, that is the live session plus the video on the YouTube, which has been, recorded in great details. You will find that, all the aspects of preamble have been covered, including the case laws. So, put together, your preamble topic will be complete, except for the question answer sessions. So, for that, what we will do is, when we start the main syllabus for the law optional, at that time, we will have a quick glance on the topic, that is preamble, various aspects. We'll quickly go through that, and we will be spending more time, rather a substantial time of the session, on only question answer writing. Okay? How we will understand the question, what the questions have been framed in the previous years by the UPSC, and how we will be writing our answers. Exactly, word to word, I will tell you how to write the answers. We will be writing the complete answers so that this topic will be fully prepared. Okay, so with that, I will start with today's session. Now, preamble reflects the aims and aspirations of the people for which they have aspired for. When we talk of the Constitution, it's the supreme law of the land, the basic fundamental law of the land, and which decides what kind of governance we have opted for, what kind of state we are, aspiring for. That is the welfare state, a democratic republic. So this is the broad structure. So let us see what the preamble, the text of the preamble says. It says, we the people of India, just note down what I am underlining. We the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Note down these terms. Then, to secure to all its citizens, secure what? Justice into of three types: social, economic, and political. Liberty of what? Of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. Equality. These are the main, terms. And then what kind of that particular term will relate to. Equality of what? Status and of opportunity, and to promote. Here it ends. And to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. So these are about 5-6 terms which form the main part of the preamble, which in fact reflects, it's like a mirror reflection of what is there in the text of the Constitution, which we will be studying in detail. In our Constituent Assembly, all these terms are already familiar to you because we have discussed these terms like Constituent Assembly, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. These terms have been repeatedly discussed in the past 3 or 4 sessions. But today we are looking at these terms. Of course, the meanings remain the same, but how they are being used, for what purpose, why they find place in the preamble. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby what? Adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. This is the whole preamble, text of the preamble. So we will get into the details of each of these terms to understand them in very, very simple manner. Now, how come the idea of preamble came in the minds of the constitution makers? That is the members of the Constituent Assembly. Now, I have already told you previously that when the Constitution was enacted, the preamble was added at the last. It was the last thing to be added to the Constitution. First, the entire Constitution was framed, enacted, and then finally, the last step was the preamble. Why it was so? This question may come into our minds. Why preamble was not there in the first place itself? Why, when it is in the beginning of the Constitution in fact starts with this, then why it didn't find place when the Constitution was in fact framed? The draft was being prepared. It was not done deliberately because once we wanted to have the complete Constitution before us, and then the preamble had to be a mirror reflection. Whatever are the provisions, they should be reflected in the shortest, text to make the preamble. So that is why it found place at the last. Now, how it was based on? It was based on objectives resolution. If you remember, who introduced this objectives resolutions in the Constituent Assembly? Pandit Nehru in 1946. December, I think 13 December. So, this objectives resolution was drafted and moved by Pandit Nehru. We have already studied during the making of the Constitution. And so, the idea of preamble was there before the Constituent Assembly. Now, once that idea was there, it was enacted and it found place in the very beginning of the Constitution. It has been amended only once in all these 70 years, only through 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976. It came into force in 1977. So it added 3 new words. Socialist, this is important. That's why I am putting some emphasis on this. Socialist, secular, and integrity. These 3 words were added. These 2 words came in the beginning, as you see here. Socialist, secular. These 2 words were added by 42nd Amendment. Now, another word was added along with the unity. So, earlier it was only unity of the nation. With 42nd Amendment, it became unity and integrity. Now, what is the significance of these additions? We will see now. The first thing which I underlined, if you remember, is the we the people of India. So, read it like this. We the people of India, that is the people of India are doing what? They are giving themselves this. First, they are resolving to have this kind of polity, this kind of structure of governance, and what they are doing is they are adopting, enacting, and give to ourselves. That means the source is the people of India. They are giving themselves this constitution. So, remember, when it comes to the source is the people of India. It is the people of India. Okay. Now we come to what kind of the state will be. See, I have already told you, when we make it, when a new nation is born, or when uh, there is a change in governance of the state, we need a constitution. And what that constitution contains, uh, all the details of the type of the state or the type of the governance we need. Okay, so this is how the nature of Indian state will be: what? Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. So this polity, what we opted for was a sovereign, independent, free from free to take any decisions with respect to internal as well as external matters. Socialist makes, socialist means that the wealth and the sources of income should not be concentrated. They should be distributed. It's, but how it is different from the communist socialism, we'll see. We have opted for a democratic socialism, which is kind of a mixed economy. Secular, because the state doesn't have a religion. We have repeatedly seen these terms, but I am trying to make them absolutely clear and simplified to you so that you are able to understand why they find place in the preamble. We have a democratic system, and we are republic. Republic means the head of the state is elected. Democracy is by the rule by the people. Now, what are the objectives? What the Constitution wants to achieve? The provisions of the Constitution. We want to achieve justice of three kinds: social, economic, and political. So, these are the subtopics, but the main objective is to have justice. Then we want to have liberty, equality for all citizens, and fraternity. Fraternity means brotherhood, bhaichara. Okay, where they will find place in the constitution, we will see, but these are the objectives. So, date of adoption is November 26, 1949. Some parts came into being immediately, but we have adopted the constitution on 26th November 1949. Now, again, I am repeating the keywords: sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Okay? And I think one part is missing in this. I will add that. That is the unity and integrity. Mostly it occurs along with fraternity, and that will be in the fundamental duties. So, sovereign, once again, we'll quickly go through what do we mean by sovereign. Not depending on any other nation or any other authority, not a dominion. Now, I'll make this, we have been using this term earlier also, that under the Indian Independence Act of 1947, it was decided to have two dominions, India and Pakistan. So at that time, I think I didn't explain this word to you. So today, I will explain what do you mean by dominion. Dominion means control. when I say that this is in my dominion, this piece of land is in my dominion, that means I own it, I control it, I have its possession. Now, how it is different from governance? There is difference between governance and dominion. The best example is the princely states. Now, what was there in the princely states? We had the kings, we have the rajas, maharajas. I mean, that's how their titles were. They were controlling their own princely states. So we can say that they had dominion over the princely states, but they were not independent. They were not independent. Dominion does not mean that they are independent because they were under the British rule. But still, they were having control over that piece of territory which covered their state, princely state, and they were, ruling over the population living in those states. So we wanted to have an independent state. So sovereign includes independence of the state, no authority above it, free to conduct its own affairs, both internal as well as external. It can acquire a foreign territory. This is important because when we will study Union of India, the part 1 of the Constitution, this term will be used. That a sovereign country can acquire foreign territory. It can cede a part of its territory, though the Constitution does not permit it, but when we enter into any international treaty or agreement where there are adjustment of boundaries, we may have to give some part of our territory. That is called ceding the territory. On our own, we cannot cede. It needs amendment of the Constitution. It's a very, very difficult process. It's not that easy to cede. But that is a sovereign function. A sovereign state can do that. They can, but our Constitution doesn't permit that. So they can have the membership of any world body or association or group like we had Commonwealth and also United Nations and many other such organizations, international organizations. So we opt, a sovereign nation can opt either to join that or to remain out of it. But that does not mean that it will have any limitation on the nation's sovereignty. If we are part of the United Nations or if we are part of the Commonwealth, it doesn't mean that the Commonwealth or the United Nations will have any control over our sovereignty. Sovereignty means these factors, all these factors. We are just members, but we are not controlled by them. So, socialist means, I have already explained to you that socialist means that there should be equitable distribution of the wealth and resources of the country. They should not be concentrated in few hands. Okay, so that means where it appears, it appears in the directive principles of the state policy in part 4. Second, 42nd Amendment had introduced this word in the preamble. So India is a democratic socialism. We have adopted democratic socialism and not communistic socialism. In the communistic socialism, there is complete nationalization of all means of production. Okay, but not in the case of India. we have adopted socialism in a democratic manner. That means state is not imposing total control over all the resources. In the democratic, because it's a rule by the people, the resources are meant for the people. In the case of communism, it is under the total control of the state. State will decide to whom how much has to be given, but not in the case of democratic socialism. In our case, it has to be equitably. Endeavor is to have the equitable distribution. So we have adopted a mixed economy where both private as well as public sector both exist and function. Whereas in communistic socialism, there's total abolition of private property. Nobody can own a private property. Whereas in our kind of socialism, democratic socialism, we can. So we have faith in mixed economy. That means both public sector is there and private sector is there. We have industry in both. We have the means of distribution, means of production in both these sectors. But they are regulated by the state. So we are leaning heavily towards Gandhian socialism. Gandhian socialism was primarily for equitable distribution, complete equality. Of course, we are leaning heavily towards that, though we have not achieved 100%, type of Gandhian socialism, but yes, we are trying to follow that principle. Secular means state has no religion. Now, earlier, this word was not there. 42nd Amendment introduced it. What part of the Constitution deals with it? It is fundamental rights, Articles 25 to 28. Now, why now you will ask these questions, why these words were added, socialist, secular. These words were added because I told you just now that preamble is the mirror reflection of the provisions of the Constitution. Now, these provisions were already there in the text of the Constitution, but they were not reflected in the preamble. So, through 42nd Amendment, it was there. Now, the constitutional validity of this amendment has been upheld by the Supreme Court in the Minerva Mills case. I'll take you through the chronology of that. You remember the basic structure of the Constitution should not be disturbed. This doctrine of basic structure was, decided by the Supreme Court in Keshwanand Bharti case. Okay. Just note down this. We will be discussing it many times. Bharti case in 1973. Okay. 42nd Amendment came in 1976. So, its constitutional validity on the text of basic structure was examined in Minerva Mills case in 1980. 73 propounded the doctrine, 76 amendment came, 1980 it was tested on the touchstone of basic structure doctrine and it was upheld. That is why these words are still there. We come to democratic. So, That means the supreme power is by the people, either directly or indirectly. In the case of direct democracy, people exercise their supreme power directly, as in the case of Switzerland. I have already mentioned, explained through how referendum, initiative, recall, plebiscite. Now, this is a new word, plebiscite. Plebiscite is given a choice to the people to either go for a particular decision or not. They decide it. Referendum and plebiscite are somehow similar words, but they are used in different contexts. Referendum is particular, a decision relating to the governance. Plebiscites are on the major issues. Now, I'll give you the example. You know, Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India. Okay, how? Under the India Independence Act of 1947, the princely states were given a choice to either go to India or to Pakistan by signing a instrument of accession. Now, what happened? Jammu and Kashmir was at that time a princely state, but they were not signing. The Raja was not signing this, and there was an armed aggression by the Pakistan and other tribals supported by Pakistan who invaded Kashmir. And when they almost reached Srinagar, they were on the outskirts of Srinagar. They reached Badgam, a place called Badgam, which is hardly about 5 kilometers from the airport. When they were in so close proximity and they had done so much atrocities on the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and the people of Kashmir, they raped and they looted and, they were really murderers. They were pounding on the wealth of the people and destroying them. So, the Raja went for accession. He signed the instrument of accession. So, according to the law prevailing at that time, he followed that law and then it was integrated into India. But a plea for plebiscite was raised by the Pakistan in the United Nations. So that's how this plebiscite came, that the choice should be given to the people, either to go to India or to Pakistan or to remain independent. But once according to the law prevailing at that time, the process had been followed by the Raja, then where is the question of any plebiscite? That is why till date no such plebiscite has taken place and it will never happen because Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India. So, in the case of indirect democracy, the representatives are elected by the people. I have explained it many times. It is known as representative democracy. There are two forms of that. One is the parliamentary form, the other is the presidential form. So, now we have opted for the parliamentary form. The other day, one of you had asked, why we have not opted for presidential form? Because we found that our democracy, because of diversity in the nature of diversity prevailing in our system in India, parliamentary system is more suitable. Though both are good, both have their merits and demerits, but we have seen over a period of more than 70 years that parliamentary form of government is working very well for our governance. Republic, head of the state is always elected, either directly or indirectly. So in the case of USA, it is the presidential form and the head of the state is directly elected. So basically, the political sovereignty is with the people and not in a single individual like a king. So we have not opted for kingdom. We have opted for an elected head of the state. So absence of any privileged class. We do not have any privileged classes. We will study when we study Articles 17 and 18 and also equality, concept of equality. Justice is in three forms: social, economic, and political. So idea of justice came out of the Russian Revolution. The social justice, now how justice is secured through fundamental rights and directive principles. Social justice is equal treatment for all citizens, absence of privileges, improvement in the conditions of backward classes, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and OBCs, and women. Economic justice is non-discrimination on the basis of economic factors, elimination of inequalities. Distributive justice, combination of social justice and economic justice. That means there equality is prevailing in the case of social justice, and economic justice is, equal distribution of wealth and resources. Political justice, that we have the right to form a government. There is equal political rights. Any party or any person can fight the elections. Equal access to all political offices, and we have equal voice. So this is how the political equality has been ensured. Liberty, absence of any restraints. This is important because when we say no restraints, it is not in absolute terms. We have seen, like in the case of freedoms, we have been given freedom under Article 19, but all those freedoms have corresponding restrictions on them. Restrictions which are called reasonable restrictions. So we will study that, but just for the purpose of polity, please understand this. So in providing opportunities, we will study that Article 16 says that there should not be any discrimination in providing employment in public offices. Secures liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship through their fundamental rights. So we have fundamental rights which are enforceable, which are guaranteed to the citizens, where all these provisions are there. So it is not absolute but qualified. That's what I said. Reasonable restrictions are there. The ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity has been taken from French Revolution. Just remember these are basic terms, but when you will go through the other recorded version of preamble session, you will understand it in more depth. So equality is absence of any special privileges, adequate opportunities. Now, there has to be equality of status and opportunity. There are three dimensions of equalities. One is civic, political, and economic. Civic equality ensures equality before law and equal protection of laws under Article 14. Prohibition of discrimination on ground of religion, race, etc. Article 15. Equality of opportunity in matters of public employment, Article 16. Abolition of untouchability, 17. Abolition of titles, 18. Now these are to ensure equality. civic equality. Political equality is that nobody is declared ineligible for inclusion in the electoral rolls. That means the right to vote has been given to all eligible persons. Elections are on the basis of universal adult suffrage, that is universal adult uh, franchise. That means equal right, each vote has got equal value, and all the citizens have got a right to vote if they are adult, that is above 18 years of age, and if they have not been debarred by the law. Economic equality is under directive principles, Article 39. That means they get equal right to an adequate means of livelihood and equal pay for equal work. This is the for economic equality. Fraternity, I said, it is brotherhood, bhaichara. So this sense of brotherhood has to be there. This is a kind of a duty. Now, best form of fraternity is to have single citizenship. All of us have got only one citizenship, that is, we are citizens of India. We do not have dual citizenship. So that binds us together as citizens of one country, that is our India. So dignity of the individual, unity and integrity of the nation, these are the duties which have been introduced in the form of fundamental duties and added by this even fundamental duties, that is part 4A. The entire part consisting of only one article, 51A, but has many parts which covers all these issues, unity, integrity, fraternity aspect. Everything is included in that to promote harmony. These are the duties cast upon the citizens. So, what do we mean by unity and integrity of the nation? It includes both psychological and territorial dimensions. That means psychological means unity among the people, their integration, and territorial unity and integrity. So both type of integrity is there. What K.M. Munshi has said, dignity of the individual not only ensures material betterment and maintain a democratic setup, but it also recognizes that the personality of every individual is sacred. That is the dignity of the individual. Significance of preamble. Now, what does it do? It embodies the fundamental values. Fundamentals includes political, moral, religious, reflects the dreams and aspirations of the founding fathers and in turn the people of the country who have given this constitution to themselves. What Sir Aladi Krishnaswamy here said, the preamble to our constitution expresses what we had thought or dreamt so long. That is, during the period of our slavery, during the British period, we had been waiting for this time to come for hundreds of years. And finally, it came in the form of independence, and not only independence, but we got an opportunity to give ourselves our right of governance. So what K.M. Munshi says, preamble is the horoscope of our sovereign democratic republic. What do you mean by horoscope? We prepare our own destiny. We decide. It decides the destiny of the nation. What kind of nation we will be, we want to have. Pandit Thakur Das Bhargava says, preamble is the sole key jewel set of the constitution. It is the real soul of the constitution. Why I have chosen these terms? Because there have been questions asked on these statements. So you should be prepared how to answer or address those questions. Now, whether preamble is a part of the constitution or not, this question has been examined in two important cases, which even as a student of general studies or polity part of that, we must know. One is the Barubari Union case of 1960. It said that the preamble is not a part of the constitution. This is how it has evolved. Preamble shows the general purpose behind the several provisions in the constitution or the key to the minds of the makers of this constitution. This has been quoted in a question. So remember, minds of the makers of the constitution, because what they had envisaged for us. Interpretation of ambiguous terms and provisions may be taken from the preamble. That means if there is any ambiguity in understanding any part of the constitution, we must refer to the preamble, because that is the real soul. Despite the requirements, a Supreme Court held that preamble is not a part of the constitution. This was in this case. But it has been overruled. Overruled in Keshwanand Bharti case in 1973. Supreme Court rejected the earlier opinion and held that preamble is a part of the constitution. So this is the present situation. Okay? Make a note of it. It observed that the preamble is of extreme importance and the constitution should be read and interpreted in the light of the grand and noble vision expressed in the preamble. In this case also, Supreme Court again held that preamble is an integral part of the constitution. These are the two important cases. Now, we must know two important things. Preamble is not a source of power. It's not a source of substantive power, we call it in legal terms. So, it is neither a source of power to the legislature, that means it does not give any authority. It is only reflecting what is there in the constitution, nor a prohibition upon the power. So, both ways, it is neither a source nor it stops or prohibits the legislature. All those provisions are there in the constitution, text of the constitution, in various provisions, but not in the preamble. It is non-justiciable. That means we cannot go to the court and say that this should be implemented. It is not implementable. It is only reflecting the aims and objectives. Its provisions are not enforceable in courts of law. Now, amendability, that means whether it can be amended or not. Yes, this question came in Keshwanand Bharti case. Preamble cannot be amended as it is not a part of the constitution. It was earlier decision in what? Barubari case. But in this case, Keshwanand Bharti case, Supreme Court held preamble is a part of constitution and can be amended like any other part of the constitution under Article 368. So this you have to remember. This is a changeover. Okay. So it has been amended only once, I told you, through 42nd Amendment, and its validity has been upheld in Minerva Mills case. So with this we come to an end of this particular session in which we have tried to understand the basics of the preamble of the Constitution from the point of view of polity part of general studies. Okay, for that part, this is sufficient. But for as a student of law, and as we have all opted for law as our optional and we are studying that, that is our main objective. We must see the video which has been already recorded and is available on YouTube. Go through that because it has got all these details plus further details also. Some more case laws are there. Take notes from that, and when we will study preamble in our regular syllabus, that time we will again have a brief discussion on that, this whole subject, this whole topic, and then also we will be attempting the questions. And I tell you, my main aim and objective is to prepare you for the examinations. And the best way of doing that is first understand the contents, and then after understanding, go to the question answer session. And not our own created question answers. Of course, I'll be giving you some model questions, but what has been asked in the civil services examination in previous years. So, nothing should be left out. We should not leave any chance. We must understand each and every term, each and every aspect, and the important statements, important case laws, so that we are able to attempt any kind of question which is put before us in the examination. How it will be written, what will be the technique, that I will be explaining to you by actually answering one or two questions, and then I will ask you to write the answers to the remaining questions, which will be checked by me and corrected by me. So nothing will be left to chance. Okay? So if you have any queries or any doubts about today's session, but I will not encourage you to raise right now. Once go through the main video also, and then after that, if you have any queries, you can even email to me, or when we meet on Monday for the next session, for the next topic, at that time you can raise those queries. I will answer them. Okay? So with this, I wish you a very happy weekend. Don't relax, we don't have time. Civil servant aspirant is always short of time. So don't waste, relax, but at the same time, do your job also, do your work preparation for the examination. And don't miss the video. Okay? Thank you very much.
For more videos, subscribe to N BY IAS and press the bell icon to never miss an update.